markets are still the two most important things to farmers and ranchers. And this week here at the Montana Grain Growers Association's annual convention, which, by the way, has been jointly hosted by the Northern Pulse Growers Association and PNW Canola Association, producers have had the opportunity to learn about a brand new marketing tool called Producer Solutions from our friends at Columbia Grain International. And we're going to talk more and learn more about Columbia Producer Solutions in just a second or so. But first, a big shout out to Nutrien Ag Solutions for helping us to bring sponsorship of our coverage from this year's MGGA joint convention. Nutrien Ag Solutions, a whole lot more than just a seed company. But don't take my word for it. Jump online and learn for yourself all the different tools that are available to you as a grower at nutrienseed.com. Well, as promised, we're going to learn more about Columbia Grain International's new and exciting marketing tool called Columbia Producer Solutions. And here to do exactly that is CGI's Phil Symons. And first of all, Phil, thank you so much for coming out to Big Sky Country this week, braving old man winter, and joining us here at the Heritage Inn in Great Falls to talk with farmers and ranchers from across the Northern Plains about different things that are impacting their businesses back home, one of which is markets. So talk about Columbia Producer Solutions and how you're at least helping them with some of their risk management tools.
Absolutely, Russell. Happy to be here, and thanks for having us on your program. It's very much appreciated. But Columbia Grain and Columbia Producer Solutions is really a platform of information, right, in terms of what's going on with the market and current trends that we're seeing. And then really just to try to help to enhance the predictive intelligence, right, that we have as producers and what's going on in the current market and how do we take advantage in terms of forward contracting last year's crop or next year's crop or the crop year after that. And so really to help try to mitigate some of the price risks that we may see given the environment that we're in. You know, we have been talking about it here recently, you know, just the swings that we've seen in the futures market and the volatility especially. You know, in Kansas City, December futures, you know, we've seen the price range from the high to the low at well over $6 a bushel. And quite honestly, that's just a significant price swings that we've been seeing. And, you know, really when you look back and you think about what the prices have been over the history of time here, you know, $6, there's been times where we haven't even seen that as the cash price that a producer's been able to get out of the market. So really the swings and the volatility that we're seeing in the market, we want to be able to provide tools to the producers to help extract the biggest potential rate of return that they can, right, based on their cost of production, right? And really we have tools anywhere from your traditional cash contracts to basis contracts or hedge to arrive contracts. We also have a new platform for accumulator contracts that are really centered around our Columbia Producer Solutions that really for all intents and purposes is very similar to your traditional hedge to arrive contract, but it's allowing you to extract a little bit of a premium right over what you could do an initial hedge to arrive for. Right, so it's giving the producer a little bit more of a better rate of return than what he could use in traditional type contracting alternatives.
Well, if I'm hearing you right, it's giving producers quite a few different options to fit a program, design a program with you folks at Columbia Grain that fits their operation versus a one-size-fits-all. Now, we can't do much about weather. In fact, as we were joking before we started the interview, it's a balmy 0 degrees here this morning in Great Falls, Montana. But we can't do much about the weather, but we can help these growers at least manage some of their risk strategies. And the Producer Solutions has been out now for a little bit, Phil. What's some of the feedback you're getting from it? Because I've had the opportunity to visit with a couple of your customers on radio and television, and from what they're telling me, it's made them a lot of money this year and helped them take advantage of this upswing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great program. I mean, it's been well received so far. We're really excited to continue to roll it out to producers just to give them alternatives, right? Because that's what it's really all about is from a cost of production standpoint, your cost of production is going to be different than my cost of production. So we do try to tailor, right, everybody's marketing plan around them. Right, to give them individual tools that are specifically designed for their operation, right, and to help extract the biggest potential rate of return that we can, given the market environment that we're in, and which tools should we be using, and why should we be using that tool based on just the overall market trends that we are seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just describe how a producer becomes more, I guess, engaged with CGI's producer solutions. I mean, do they talk to their local Columbia grain representative in their area? I know you've got a brand new part of your website that has a ton of information. Just describe how we can learn more about producer solutions.
Absolutely, yeah. Probably the best thing is to reach out to your local Columbia Grain merchandiser or manager or buyer. We also have our website, columbiagrain.com, right? That will also take you to our producer solutions platform as well. That's really where we house a lot of our data, in terms of market trends and information that we just see that may be affecting the markets. But the best way to do it is to reach out to your local Columbia Grain merchandiser or manager just to get more information on the program as itself.
Well, and each week on that website, you yourself kind of do a market recap and just a little bit of an update, providing some of the insight, because you have your nose and your head buried in this market information all week long, and then you kind of do a recap, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every week we try to do one on Friday that just kind of recaps the week that we've seen, and we take a look at any news wires that may have been hitting the market, driving the prices one way or the other, and then trying to wrap our hands around what we anticipate, right, the markets could be doing, next week, next 6 months, next year even. And really, with Columbia Producer Solutions, those tools are available to help mitigate the risk when we look out to next year and even the year after that.
Well, and we've been talking about how Columbia Producer Solutions can help growers this year take advantage of this upswing, but we're not always going to have an upswing in the wheat markets or any commodity market for that matter. I mean, too many times, unfortunately, the grain markets and the pulse markets are not where they're at here in 2022 going into 2023. But so moving past that, I mean, from what I'm hearing, producer solutions can also help growers manage their risk during the downtimes.
Absolutely, and that's a great point, Russell. I'm really glad that you brought it up, because a lot of the times when we do, have conversation with producers, it's always, where do I get the biggest rate of return, right? But we also need to look at it from the other side of the coin, just like exactly what you're describing, right? Because we want to make sure that we protect the floor as well. And we definitely have tools that are designed to help protect the floor in case some unforeseen event does really drive us down to levels that will get us more to historical pricing points that we have seen.
Yeah, well, again, folks can talk to their local Columbia Grain International representative. There's a ton of them across the Northern Plains. Of course, we're doing this interview here in Great Falls, Montana. Lots of CGI facilities here in Big Sky Country, but also across the PNW into the Midwest now. I mean, lots of opportunities. We've been talking about producer solutions, but really, as a whole, I mean, this is just one more tool in the ginormous area that Columbia Grain has helped growers for so many years now, market and deliver their grain to those important markets around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're really happy to be able to provide these tools out to the growers. It just gives them another alternative, right, to help market their grain and just really offset the risk that they have.
Anything else that's top of mind that you've been visiting with folks here at the Montana Grain Growers Association, Phil?
The biggest thing right now is to just make sure that you're building your marketing plan, looking out to next year and the year after, quite honestly, because, like you were saying, these prices are fantastic while they're here. They're giving us great opportunities. Next year is going to be totally different than it is this year. If that's the one thing that I've come to realize, next year will definitely be different than where we're sitting today.
Well, and we can't say it enough. I mean, too many times we kind of get strung out on our farms and ranches and thinking we have to make these type of decisions alone or with our spouses or whatever, but allow ourselves to reach out and ask for help, because there is a ton of knowledge, a ton of expertise at Columbia Grain and other agribusiness companies to help all of us with important decisions like how to market our grain.
Yep, absolutely. The biggest thing too is looking at it and actually getting your orders out there and working, quite honestly. Because like you said, I mean, growers have 125 other things that they're working on,
at least, right?
And every single day, and if you're out in your shop and you're working on your equipment and all of a sudden the markets move up 50 cents, you may not realize it because you're not looking at a monitor 24 hours a day. But if you have your marketing plan built, right, it helps. You can't remove the emotion entirely, but it helps to at least reduce some of the emotion. With these kind of price swings that we've been seeing, it just makes it that much more difficult to actually pull the trigger right when the time is right.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time today, Phil, and joining us on this feature as we learn more about Columbia Grain International's new Columbia Producer Solutions. Again, Phil Symons with Columbia Grain for all the details about Producer Solutions and really everything else that Columbia Grain is helping to cultivate growth across its footprint here in the Northern Plains. You can visit them online at columbiagrain.com. And just one more shout out before we go to our friends at Nutrien Ag Solutions. We want to thank them for sponsoring the Western Ag Network's radio, television, and social media coverage this week from the Montana Grain Growers Association's annual convention here in Great Falls. You can learn more about Nutrien Ag Solutions and everything they have to offer to farmers and ranchers across the Northern Plains and beyond by visiting nutrienseed.com.
Well, as we continue our discussions here from the Montana Grain Growers Convention going on in Great Falls, this coverage still brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, more than just a seed company. We're talking with Paul Canning today. Paul is from Flaxville, and Paul, you're practically my neighbor, and
That's right.
we hadn't actually met each other yet. So Paul is the VP of the Montana Pulse Crop Committee, and I've got this in my notes because these are not words that I know to put together naturally,
right.
Paul. So tell me what the Pulse Crop Committee is all about.
All right, so we're the checkoff branch for pulse crops in Montana. So very similar to the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, there's a checkoff program for pulse crops, chickpeas, lentils, yellow peas, faba beans, and that checkoff program, those monies get collected, and the purpose of the Montana Pulse Crop Committee is to administer that funding on behalf of farmers to grow the industry for them. So increase market, support research, and provide grower education. And it's a little bit separate. We have a growers group, like Wheat and Barley has a growers group called Montana Grain Growers Association. For us, it's the Northern Pulse Growers Association. That's a separate entity. It's not part of the Montana Pulse Crop Committee.
So I'm from Glasgow. We
Right.
got named the middle of nowhere.
You did.
Flaxville is definitely the middle of nowhere. You are middle of nowhere plus, what, 150 miles?
Yeah, so I drive to the middle of nowhere to go get parts when I need parts.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
who would have thought that Flaxville and your surrounding area has become just this pulse capital, not only for the state, but I mean, it really is nationally a leader. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have a good friend named Gordon Stoner, who you know well, right? And he always talks about there's this golden triangle in Montana, but we get lucky enough to be in he calls it the platinum rectangle up there. Sheridan, Daniels, Roosevelt counties, Valley County, where this has really transformed opportunity in agriculture for us. Yeah.
did you ever dream? I mean, you grew up there, you served in the military for 20 years, you came back, you bought the farm. This was not there when you left the place.
Right. Yeah. This was all brand new to me, and so big learning curve. And there's still learning going on all the time, right? But it has certainly provided an opportunity for people like me to come back to the farm, where maybe I wouldn't have felt like I had that opportunity in the past, right? Because it provides a little bit of economic stability, a little bit of risk mitigation to us, and allows us to take land out of fallow and crop that land every year in a rotation. So yeah, it's, when people were talking to me about lentils, I didn't even have a concept of what a lentil is, right? Let alone growing the things. So yeah, it's pretty awesome for the whole state of Montana. Yeah.
So one of the things that we've been learning is what this looks like in rotation, and it's really easy to overdo anything in a rotation if we're looking at chasing the market always. Charlie Cahill from your country, he always says if you're chasing the market, by definition, you're behind it.
Yeah.
So we're learning things about rotations, not only for marketing, but also just for soil health. What have you come up with?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think that's important for us as growers. We've got to this is a great opportunity for us, but we can't squander it, right? We got to make sure that we don't mess this up, and we need to make sure that we're following the rotational restrictions that are out there, and we need to make sure that we are following the chemistry label restrictions that are out there. If we start getting too tight on rotations, if we start skipping days after desiccation and going in there too soon with the combine, we're going to harm our industry. And really, so we all have to be policing ourselves and each other so that we don't mess this opportunity up. That it's just one of those things that happens. People think about, maybe I'll just have chickpeas and something. Well, when you tighten that rotation up, you start introducing things like phantomyces and a whole bunch of other big words.
You did very good with that one.
Well, and the problem is, the bigger the word is, the longer it takes you to recover from it, right? And the more severe the damage is. And we can't jeopardize this great industry that we have. Right?
One of the things that you mentioned is that you have a good risk management tool in having pulses as part of that rotation.
Right.
But within the crop itself, because it's not traded, we don't see futures for these pulse crops, the risk management part of that is a little bit trickier. And as we were talking before this interview, you were saying this is actually where a lot of the checkoff dollars for what comes in from pulses come into play, is by being able to do some risk management in there on the marketing side.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So, like you said, there is no futures market. So, in order for us to have a revenue protection on our crop insurance, we needed to do something different. They can't use a futures market to determine things like spring price or a harvest price, right? And so that happens because of the checkoff program. RMA does not administer this program. It is administered by the checkoff organizations, and through the RMA, through an agreement with them. And so if you happen to be growing pulses in a state which does not have a checkoff, you don't even have this option available to you. The return to growers all across the Northern Plains has been, worth millions of dollars over the last 10 years. In Montana, the revenue protection has been worth about $3 million here the last couple of years. And so that's a great return. That's more than the checkoff program is worth. It has been a great return for Montana. And now, obviously, we don't like using insurance, but it is risk management, right? You're protecting yourself against some of the conditions that we've seen the last few years. And it's only possible because of the checkoff program. So for growers who are supporting the checkoff, thank you very much. You're really helping your neighbors out. You're helping yourself, and with providing this tool that would not otherwise be available.
Again, Paul Canning is the Vice President of the Montana Pulse Crop Committee, and as we did this discussion here, Paul, marketing, of course, is always king for everything in agriculture. We can grow, but can we sell? And so we've got our domestic market, and then we've got our international market. Let's talk about here at home and what's been done to market these pulses, because it's gotten pretty creative.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not talking about just lentil soup anymore, right? The technology and the innovation has been absolutely fantastic. The MSU Food Innovation Center is here with some great lentil puffs. I didn't even know what those were. It's like cheese puffs, but they're made out of lentils.
And so it's got to be healthy.
Right, yeah. It's got, eat them up. They're all good. No, and so the ability to extrude the protein and separate the starch, and then learning the characteristics, like how does this protein match up and blend with another protein to then create something like a dairy product or a pasta product or a meat alternative or anything like that. The science and the technology and the learning and the education behind all that has really just taken off. And it's really demand that's driving it, right? There's a lot of people across the world who decide they want a different source of protein. Some of them want a plant-based protein, and pulse crops are extremely high in the content and the quality of the protein, aside from all the other things that come with it, right? Like, zinc and iron and all the other great things that are in there. So, yeah, the food innovation is absolutely, it's amazing to me. Every time I come to something like this, I see a new product like lentil puffs. Yeah.
I've had lentil cookies from Shelley Mills at Valley County Extension, and they've been phenomenal, but
Right.
I mean, it's a cookie, so it's got enough sugar to it. As we talk about that marketing, India, I know, is a country that is definitely a target for the lentil industry here in the U.S. It's had some challenges with tariffs. Are we ever going to get past those?
Well, we need some help. It's been ongoing for, I don't know, 5 years, or it seems like. And we are just one industry, and there's a lot of industries that are involved in this, whether it be mangoes or airplanes or steel or whatever, and we kind of get caught up in it. So yes, there is a higher tariff rate against U.S. pulse products, not just lentils, but peas and chickpeas and everything, every other pulse also, than our neighbors face. And so we are at a disadvantage when it comes to trading with them. There's been great effort among White House administrations, among U.S. trade representative, Montana delegation, our senators and congressmen have weighed in on it. We just haven't made any progress yet. We will, we need to, the standard of quality that they can get from U.S. grown pulses and Montana grown pulses is absolutely fantastic, and it's a quality they can't get anywhere else. And they will come back to the table and say, we need your product, and we'll be ready for them when that day happens. We just need it to be sooner rather than later. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you came to Great Falls just so I could get to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you too, Haylie.
Again, Paul Canning, he's the Vice President of the Montana Pulse Crop Committee from the Montana Grain Growers Convention going on right now in Montana's Golden Triangle. This is the Western Ag Network.